Ahead of the Sky Bet Championship playoff final between West London rivals Brentford and Fulham, I am delighted to be joined by TalkSPORT presenter and lifelong Brentford fan, Natalie Sawyer. Natalie, thanks very much for joining us today to talk about one of your favourite things, Brentford Football Club.
Yeah, it's not a hardship, is it, to come on talk about this? Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be talking to you about Brentford.
So, first of all, how great is it to see your club in the playoff final and just one game away from the Premier League now?
Oh, goodness. How good is it? It's simply amazing, actually, to be contesting one of the richest games in football, if not the richest game in football. I don't want to make it out it's all about finances, because it's not, but just to be a part of that and to be 90 minutes away, technically, from being in the Premier League. It's quite unbelievable for a little club like Brentford, who are, we're not known necessarily for hitting the heights, obviously. We've never reached the Premier League before. In fact, you've got to go back to, 1947, the last time we played in the top division of English football. So it's kind of like a dream, really. But the season has been so fantastic that I just feel like it's justified that we're there. And it's, like I say, it's a fairy tale and a bit of a dream.
I was going to say, it has been an outstanding season for them, hasn't it? I know they had a chance at automatic promotion on the final day, but again, no one would have expected that in the build-up. But away from that, they've just been outstanding, haven't they, all season?
They have. And, you're right to mention the game against Barnsley and the game previously against Stoke, where we had two opportunities, really, to go up automatically. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. But over the course of the season, if you had said to me at the start, in fact, you're going to make the playoff final, I'd have been thinking, well, you're balmy, aren't you? This doesn't happen to Brentford. Having said that, I think it was the club's aim to at least reach the playoffs, because we've known about the potential of this squad for a long time. We've kind of, in our last few seasons, been kind of getting towards the playoffs, but maybe not quite getting into them. And that was often because, I don't know, towards the end of the season, we just lacked something within our squad. And I know I spoke to Thomas Frank in the summer previously to this season, and talked about, well, what do Brentford need to do to get better, to get into those playoffs? And it was all about needing some players with a bit of leadership and a bit of experience. And I think that's where Pontus Jansson comes into play in this one. And I don't want to put it all on one person, because there's so much more to this team than just say Pontus Jansson. But it just goes to show sometimes you do need someone who might know how to manage a game better than what we've had done previously. So, yeah, to be in this position that we are right now, I'm just loving it. Love talking about it as well.
You did mention Thomas Frank there and his recruitment. I'm going to come on to that in a little while. But when the season restarted, there was still quite a gap, wasn't there, between Brentford and second place? But, they won 7 on the bounce to take it right to the final day. Were you almost surprised by how well they played after the restart?
I think so. I think I was surprised at how well we started, and the fact that, as you pointed out, win 7 games in a row, that's some feat of any club to be able to do that, really. Probably also surprised by how maybe West Brom and Leeds had faltered a little, but they had enough points on the board, as it turned out, that it didn't matter to them. They could afford a couple of slip-ups, but they still managed to go up. What a restart it was for Brentford, and it did give us all a lot of hope, but it wasn't to be automatic, and we are very delighted to be in this playoff position.
And again, before we go on to the semi-finals and the final, and just what about the Championship as a whole this season? It's been one of the closest, one of the most exciting, one of the most competitive of recent years, hasn't it? Certainly from what I can remember.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big advocate of the EFL, because that's all I've ever known as a Brentford fan. So I absolutely love anything to do with the EFL. But this season has been extraordinary. You've had, Leeds and West Brom sort of leading the way for a large part of it, but for Brentford to try and claw that back as they did after the restart was fantastic. The fact that actually going to the last game of the Championship season, I think there was only maybe 4 or 5 teams that knew they were safe or that they weren't going to be promoted. The rest, every other game, every other team had something riding on the match they were in, which goes to show just how amazingly competitive the Championship is. And I've loved it. It's been a roller coaster. I've gone through lots of highs and a bit of lows, but it's been a wonderful season. I hope it ends on a high for us still. But yeah, it's just been one heck of a ride in the Championship.
And I'm always interested to get opinions from a fan perspective as well, because generally going into the playoffs, clubs that go into the playoffs, on the back of a couple of really good results, they have that momentum, and you tend to see, the 5th and 6th place clubs do well in the playoffs. Brentford obviously lost their final 2 games of the season. Do you think that affected them going into the playoffs? And from your perspective as a fan, was there ever a part of you that thought, oh God, we're going to blow this now, not having that momentum?
Oh dear, Abby, you ask my boyfriend, he will say I was the most half-empty person there is. He was worried about my sanity because I just could not deal with it. I couldn't deal with the Stoke game, first of all. Then the Barnsley game came around, and there was a moment during that course of the night where West Brom were losing to QPR, and it put Brentford in second spot because we were drawing at the time to Barnsley. So, yeah, I've been, as I said to you before, I've been through lots of emotions, lots of waves of different feelings. And yeah, I think it did kind of affect us a little bit going into that first leg against Swansea. I don't think we played to our potential. And then there was a red card that was a game changer. As soon as you go down to 10 men, it's always going to be difficult. And I actually was really pleased that we came away from that game just 1-0 down. I think any more than that, it could have been more difficult for us. But, there were glimpses of the Brentford side that we knew in that first leg, but they just didn't play to the Brentford that we know and we've seen week in, week out. So I was pleased that we were able to turn it around for that second leg.
And what about the second leg then? Because, they just came out absolutely flying, didn't they? Did you expect that? You must have been on the edge of your seat your whole way through, but how good was that second leg?
Well, I had a pillow pretty much in front of my face the whole time. So, yeah, they did exactly what Thomas Frank said, that they would come out firing. And my goodness, they had a blistering start, obviously, to go 2-0 up very, very quickly. And obviously then we had half time, and then we scored again very quickly after the restart for the second half. And I think for the half a good hour of that game, we were the dominant side and thoroughly deserved that win. But obviously we did concede, and it then got a bit jittery, which I think is to be expected when you know that they only need one more goal and it's going to take it to extra time. So what I was really most pleased about is any neutral who are watching, probably I'd like to think that they saw that first hour of Brentford and thought, this is why everyone's talking about them. This is the Brentford that I'm getting, and kind of dismiss the 3 previous games, I'd like to think, because that, as I say, that hour for Brentford was sublime.
And I don't know if you saw it, but Thomas Frank said in his pre-match press conference that he was 100% sure that Brentford were going to win the game. Now, what did you make of that? Is that the kind of stuff that you want to hear as a fan?
I think anybody who supports the team and hears their manager speaks like that, it just gives you confidence as a fan. And don't get me wrong, I'm on a lot of forums to do with Brentford, so I'm reading the comments and chipping in here and there. And there were a lot of people that were down after the previous results. But when you hear a manager say that, you can't help but think, get yourself G'd up for it, really. And I think that also helps with the players. I do understand that Thomas Frank polarizes people, and I have seen a lot of negative comments because people might suggest he's a little arrogant. But I think you want a bit of arrogance, don't you, from your manager? Because otherwise, if he goes in just saying, well, we might win, well, that's no good. We don't want to might win. We have to win. So I love Thomas Frank. I think he says it like it is. He's a breath of fresh air, is how I'd put him. He's a character, that's for sure.
And just going back to what you said previously, aside from his characteristics as a man and as a manager, from the recruitment side of things, he's done an excellent job this season, hasn't he, in transforming the side and creating something special there.
Absolutely. Obviously not just Thomas Frank, it's everybody behind the scenes there, from the sporting directors to obviously all the coaches. But you're absolutely right. Last season, as people know, and a lot of people will know the story of Brentford, that we tend to buy and sell, but we always seem to have somebody coming through to replace the person that we've just sold. So last season, Neil Mopay, I remember I didn't want Neil Maupay to leave, and I really hoped he would stick around. But obviously, you do understand that if a Premier League club comes in for one of your players, that's very difficult for them to resist that. Did I think that Ollie Watkins would be the answer? No, I had no idea. I loved Ollie Watkins as a winger and thought he was brilliant. But to see the transformation in him at Brentford, I think when he was much younger, he started out as a striker, but then was sort of transformed into a winger, and that's how we knew him. But he has just taken on that pressure of being the number one man, and has just gone with it in such style. There's so much about Ollie Watkins that's fantastic, and you do have to put a lot of credit to Thomas Frank and the team, and Ollie Watkins as well, for doing that and for making it all click. And then obviously you've got Said Benrahma and Brian Mbeumo as well. So yeah, it's the best football we've ever seen, I think, at Brentford, and we're enjoying what we're seeing, and we just hope that we get to continue seeing it, because it has been an absolute joy.
So just looking ahead to the final then, obviously it's a West London derby. It is a shame that there will be no fans there to see it. Obviously, it would be an amazing day if they could be there, but obviously everyone will be watching at home. How much of a bigger game do you think it makes it, the fact that Fulham are their opponents on the day?
I think it just adds a nice little bit of spice to it, really. I think you have to forget all the previous form of a team. You have to forget the head-to-heads. We've beaten Fulham twice, but going into a game of this magnitude, that doesn't matter. That doesn't count for anything. It's a one-off match. Fulham will be desperate to win it. Likewise, Brentford will. So I don't know. I'm so excited about it, but equally I'm already nervous. And just talking about it with you right now, I'm thinking I can feel my stomach getting the old, rumbles. So being a West London derby, part of me loves it, part of me hates it, because it's your rivals, your nearest rivals. But in a way, if you're going to beat any team, you might as well beat your rivals. So yeah, it's going to be a cracker, I'm sure.
So I just want to talk about your time as a Brentford supporter. I think I'm right in saying from what I've listened to previously that you're not necessarily, a football family as such. So I'm just interested to know how you got into football, and more importantly, how you got into supporting Brentford.
Yeah, so it's a funny one. My dad, not interested in football whatsoever. Likewise, my mum, the same, no interest. And my brother, when he was a lot younger, would play in like a local weekend, Saturday, Sunday football team. And because he showed some interest in football, I think my dad and my mum just thought, well, why don't we just go to a game? And they just happened to get tickets. I think it was like a Brentford in the community type project thing. And they got tickets through that. And we grew up by Kew Bridge. So naturally, Brentford is the closest club to us. So we just went along. It was a November night, and I can remember vividly Bristol Rovers, a 1-1 draw. I can remember exactly where I'm sat. I can see the sunset as I'm speaking now. I can see the floodlights, everything. And we just loved it. And because it was my brother's birthday, we'd taken a few of his friends as well. And we'd gone to this pub that unfortunately is no longer there. It was not one of the ones around the stadium. And we'd had some lunch, I suppose. And there were Bristol Rovers fans in there. They came up to us asking, well, what's going on here? Because obviously it's a bit of a celebration. Found out it was my brother's birthday. They made a collection for my brother, which was lovely. So the kind of whole experience got off to a great start. Little did we know that, choosing Brentford, we'd go through loads of lows to support them. But, that's what it is to be a football fan. You support them through thick and thin. And thankfully right now we're having some highs. So it's kind of worked out.
Yes, I was going to say I'll come on to some of the highs and lows in a minute, but I suppose starting with the highs, over the years, what are your favourite memories of supporting the club?
Oh gosh, we're very fortunate in the recent years that we've had quite a few highs. If you go back to the 2013-14 season when we lost in the playoff final to Yeovil, having previously lost that game to Doncaster, which we knew, had we scored that 90th minute penalty, we'd have gone up. But as it turned out, we hit the crossbar, and obviously Doncaster went down the other end and scored.
I'm actually a Doncaster fan, by the way, so I remember that game very well. I'm a Doncaster fan.
I'm sure. There you go. I'm sure you do remember it, and you would have celebrated. And we were all sat there in shock. And there aren't many times that I will watch a penalty thinking we're going to score this. that time I thought we were going to score it. I felt like it was fate. But anyhow, as it is, that obviously isn't a high, but the high for me is the fact that we could turn it around next season, and that we didn't fall apart. We didn't feel the pressure of missing out the previous season. We went on and finished second to Wolves that time around with, again, a squad that was really good. You could see how close that squad was. They had such a great camaraderie. They were great friends off the pitch as well as on it. So that's probably one of my more recent highs. And in terms of like being at the game, when Brentford played Preston, which was on Good Friday, that was the result that secured our promotion to the Championship, where we've now stayed ever since. Being there, and I can inevitably, you're hearing the Chinese whispers of, well, so-and-so's losing, and so-and-so, like Leyton Orient's losing, and Crawley are doing this, and Wolves are doing this, and Rotherham are losing, and all this sort of stuff. And it was just great to be in that stadium, seeing the results coming in and knowing, well, we only need this result to go our way, and we're up. So that is a wonderful memory that will stick with me, especially as I was with my brother, I was with my dad, sat in our seats at Griffin Park. So yeah, that would be my most recent memory that I just have a huge smile talking about it on my face.
And even with the bad times and the disappointments, like, you talked about the Doncaster game there on the last day of the season. Yes, they might be not so good memories for you as a football fan, but then when you talk about Preston the following year and the promotion, they're the kind of memories that just make sort of the roller coaster ride of being a football fan completely worthwhile, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. You can't have it always good, can you? So I mean, we've suffered relegations. I mean, we've been in League Two, so we know how tough it is to get out of League Two as well. So yeah, to be a true fan, I think you do have to go through the highs and the lows. And maybe you don't get the highs as much as you'd like, but I think going through the lows, it just makes you a better fan. You appreciate the highs when they happen. And I'm lucky, I think, to say that I've supported Brentford for a very long time. So I've seen Brentford, as I said, in League Two, with not a lot of money, with not a great owner who isn't a fan of the club. And now I'm in a position where I'm not a glory hunter. I've been there. I've been where we're in the depths of despair, where we were even at one stage, it looked like we got off to such a bad start in League Two. We could have been relegated the way our form was going. We managed to turn that around. But I think I'm just pleased that I've kind of seen all the terrible times, and right now it's just lovely to be enjoying it.
And of course, this season is even more special with the club saying farewell to Griffin Park after more than 115 years. It's such a unique football stadium, isn't it? And it's one that everybody talks about as being one of their best away days. What are you going to miss most about that stadium?
Oh gosh, what will I miss most? Thankfully you have the memories, so that's one positive. But I'll miss, I think, when we move into the new ground, obviously we've already got our season tickets for the new ground, but we know that we're not going to be sat with the people that we're already sat around at Griffin Park. So you'll miss those familiar faces and the friends that you've made at Griffin Park. I'll miss the intimacy of it, the old-fashionedness of it, the fact that some people, opposing fans, might say it's a bit of a dump. I might miss all of that because it had its unique character. But I do understand why we have to move. Football is a business nowadays as well, so you have to move with the times. So I do understand why we're moving, but I'll certainly miss a heck of a lot when it comes to Griffin Park, because that's where I fell in love with football. So I'll miss the old dear for that reason.
But it would be fitting, wouldn't it, for Brentford to get promotion the year they say goodbye to Griffin Park? What would it mean to you for the club to get promoted this year?
Oh, goodness. Like I said to you before, I'm a massive EFL fan. So for me now to turn around and go, well, I want to be in the Premier League, it sounds a bit wrong. But what would it mean? It would be the most amazing story. And it would close the chapter on Griffin Park in such a wonderful way. I can't actually imagine it. I really can't. And if it was to happen, I think it would just be surreal. I don't think I could take it in for a while. I'd have to wait till the fixtures come out for me to realise that we were promoted, I think. It will just tie everything together. All the work that Matthew Benn and the owner has done in trying to get this team to play a certain style and to kind of buck the trend in the Championship. I think it will just be a unique fairy tale story that I hope comes true.
Finally, I'm going to put you on the spot without speaking too much from the heart. Do you think they've got what it takes to be successful next week and ultimately become a Premier League club?
Oh, you see, you asked me that question and I don't want to jinx it, but I think if we can play the way that we have played, say, the first 7 games of the restart, and if we can play the way that we know we can play, and I know I said before about the previous form, the previous records against Fulham don't matter, but if we actually can play like we have played against them, then I am, like Thomas Frank has said before, 100% certain we can win that game.